This is a busy time of year. School is starting for all ages, myself included. Teachers and professors are going back to campus. Commutes change due to school traffic. And well, everything else in our lives that continues to go on. Jesus knew how it felt to be faced with many big decisions and big feelings all at once, too. That's kind of what our Matthew passage is about today. Prior to our passage today, John the Baptist had been imprisoned for condemning Herod's marriage to Herodias. Herodias and her daughter then conspired to have John executed and beheaded. Not the best birthday party serving, I would say. The disciples then took care of John's body and buried it and came and told Jesus. That's where our passage starts today. After finding out about John's death, Jesus told the disciples that he wanted to go spend time by himself, just for a little bit. It makes sense. John was a friend of both Jesus and the disciples. So as Jesus went on his way to spend some time alone, he and the disciples saw a huge crowd waiting for Jesus. Okay, this crowd, consisting of 15,000 or more men, women, and children. Just imagine, it was so large it could fill up State Farm Arena. And I'm sure the disciples did not want to deal with a giant crowd after just experiencing the death of their friend. Plus, they're probably tired and hungry. It's hot. So they asked Jesus to send the crowd away. Jesus, however, said the crowd could stay. Jesus saw there were people in the crowd who were sick. So he healed them. He told the disciples to then go feed the crowd because he saw they were hungry, which, left the disciples a little bit confused, asking themselves, he knows we only have 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? That's it. But the disciples did as Jesus said, and in the end, every single person was fed. The entire arena. In this story, we find a contrast between Herod's rule and God's rule. Herod ruled in fear and with fear. He imprisoned John because John was a threat to him. Then he had John killed and his head served on a silver platter as if it was a meal for a king. Jesus, on the other hand, responded to John the Baptist's death by withdrawing to spend time alone and with God. He doesn't respond with anger or hostility. And when his attention is drawn to a large crowd nearby, he notices a need for food and healing. And Jesus serves them, creates community. What stood out to me as I prepared for today were these words. He had compassion on them and healed their sick. Jesus had just lost one of his closest friends. He knew he needed to spend some time by himself to process this. But then he saw a crowd. He didn't just notice the crowd was there, because I imagine it's difficult to ignore a group of 15,000 people. But he also noticed the needs of the people. He had compassion on them, and he healed them, and he fed them. Maybe this part stood out to me the most because over the summer, as you may know, the kids and I have been learning about God's love and how God's love helps us feel compassion for all living things, humans included. Having compassion like this helps us to see God in all of creation. Because when we love others, we see them as their fully loved selves that God made them to be. And then we see the reflection of God in them. The definition of compassion that we used, which you may know, is I see your hurt, I feel your hurt, I help ease your hurt. So we learned that I see that you are hurting, and I know that feeling because I felt it before. So I want to help ease that hurt. So how can we feel compassion for others? We learned that by knowing what every living thing needs, we can show compassion for them when we see that they don't have what they need. One thing we learned that all living things need is food. This includes humans, insects, animals, plants, etc. So if we see someone or something as hungry, we share that feeling of hunger because we felt that feeling before. And then we help ease that hunger by assisting with access to food somehow. Maybe it's sharing a snack or locating a free meal. Through our compassion for others, we show God's love. I see your hurt. I feel your hurt. I help ease your hurt. And that's what Jesus did. Jesus saw the crowd's hunger, their hurt. He felt their pain because he has felt hunger before. And he helped ease their hunger. Jesus showed compassion like this, not just here in this story, but throughout his ministry. Through his actions, Jesus shows us that God sees our pain and wants to be with us in it. Even when Jesus died, we see, when he died, his resurrection showed us that God is still seeing our pain and feeling our pain and easing our pain today and tomorrow. Through Jesus, we see the compassion in God's love, and we learn how to spread that compassion. When we show compassion to others, that energy passes to one living thing to another and creates more positive and compassionate actions. You may not see how your compassion multiplies, but that living thing you encountered will. And they will most likely share that compassion and love with another living thing, and so on. So if you feel like you have just a minute energy to give, or only a speck of food to spare, God will multiply it more than you may know. Now, I'm not saying your coffee and your PB&J sandwiches will multiply by thousands, just like the story, but just know that your actions have power. And when we read this story, we often focus on the miracle of Jesus feeding more than 15,000 people with so little food. Which is, it's miraculous, right? And it's still hard to comprehend 2,000 years later. And there's debate among scholars as to how historical this miracle is. Like, did it really happen? And if so, how? One scholar, H.E.G. Paulus, offers a fascinating explanation. He argues that Jesus was able to feed so many with so little due to a chain reaction of compassion rather than a miraculous creation of more food. This argument holds that because Jesus and his disciples shared the little amount of food they had, others decided to share the small amount of food they had, which spurred more to share maybe what snacks they had, and so on until all 15,000 were fed. That's not just a miracle, it's miraculous compassion. Whether Jesus miraculously multiplied the food or whether he sparked a chain reaction of compassion from one person to another, the story is still proof of the power of God's love. Both understandings of the story show the power of a small act of compassion and God's love. We can show compassion to others even if we have a single goldfish cracker to share. So as we embark on this new school year, we acknowledge that it's easy to become overwhelmed. And like Jesus and the disciples, it's easy to be physically and emotionally tired. Students, teachers, parents, and those not in school will have loads of work to complete, stress, food to make, bills to pay, stress, clothes to wash, all the while dealing with whatever life throws at us, sometimes being all at once. We acknowledge that we all need a break from the stressors of life sometimes, and sometimes from people. We acknowledge that we all need compassion. So this school year, let's put compassion front and center. Let's see others hurt, feel their hurt, help ease their hurt. Let's see the hurt of the teachers who work all day exemplifying kindness to children all week and teaching new exciting topics as well. Let's see the hurt of the students who not only learn academics but social skills, hobbies, art, and about themselves. Let's see the hurt of our parents who help their kiddos with homework, along with doing their own work and trying to make their bedtime routine an easy one tonight. Whether we are in school or not, we know the feeling of exhaustion, of stress, of the emotional toll our weekday schedule brings alongside our ups and downs of life. So let's live each week with compassion-colored glasses. And let's remember, I can see your hurt, feel your hurt, and help ease your hurt. But what are ways we can help ease hurt? We can do so in large, tangible ways, or even in the smallest of ways. You can donate money or your time. You can do something as small as offering a hug, a smile, a compliment. You can offer an extra hand, a cup of coffee, a lunch. You can babysit, help tutor a subject you may know really well. You can offer to listen, share your snack, your extra pencil, or even your seat on the bus. While you are out there tending to others, don't forget to show your self-compassion. According to the Gospel of Matthew, after Jesus fed the thousands of people, he withdrew and spent time alone, like he said he was going to do. You should too. See your own hurt. Feel your own hurt. Help ease your own hurt. Eat healthy, but also treat yourself and eat something super sugary. Drink water, lots of it, it's hot. Take time for yourself. Talk to a therapist. Spend time doing what you love, even if just for 5 minutes. Spend time with people you love. Jam out to your favorite music. And I admit, it will be difficult to show compassion sometimes. We're not always going to feel like we have enough energy or that we like that person. We may take care of so many other people that we also feel like there isn't enough time to feel compassion for ourselves. Compassion is something we need to practice, something we can get better at every day of our lives. So even if you're not going back to school, ask yourself how you can learn and grow in compassion. What hurt can you learn to feel? What hurt can you learn to ease? Maybe it is serving a meal for people experiencing homelessness so that they have a warm meal to eat. Maybe it's ordering or making food for our monthly gatherings so that someone who is lonely can meet new friends. Maybe it's volunteering in a school or in your community. Maybe it's reading a book to a child who is eager to learn and read. And if you're not sure what to do, ask. Ask the person that you see hurting. And if you're not comfortable, come ask a pastor here at the church. As we practice compassion, we get better at it, and we see more of God and more of creation, while also spreading God's love. And if you struggle to find compassion for yourself and others, I hope this church family can be a source of compassion for you. It's certainly for me. I hope this church will be a place where you learn to receive and spread compassion, just like Jesus taught us to do. And our scripture today reminds us that we're not doing any of this on our own. We're doing it together and with God. So this year, let's show compassion for all living things, knowing that God's love multiplies even the most meager of offerings. As we share compassion with others and ourselves, may others know God's abundant love. And as we share communion today, let's remember the love and compassion shown through the simple act of sharing a piece of bread.